APRIT. APRIT, as you know, it's a National Telecommunication Institute for Policy Research, Innovation and Training. It's an Apex Telecom Training Center of Government of India under Ministry of Communication. It is one of the central training institutes in the country, and this is situated in ALT Center campus in Ghaziabad, Uttar Pradesh. I welcome you all in this webinar on circular economy for telecom sector. Now, keeping in view the requirements of reduction in carbon emission as well as the reduction in waste generated for sustainability in telecom sector, this webinar on circular economy for telecom sector is very important and relevant in the present times. So first of all, I'll request Shri Dev Kumar Chakravarti sir, Director General and Head Anti-Aprit, to deliver welcome address.
Thank you, Saurabh. Good morning to all of you. On behalf of Anti-Aprit, the nation's premier telecom institution for policy research, innovation and training, I extend warm greetings to all the participating officials as well as the expert speakers. Anti-Aprit in past has conducted many such webinars on the current and the emerging topics which have been liked and appreciated by various telecom stakeholders and academicians. On an average, we have been conducting almost one webinar every fortnight on different topics of current and emerging importance. In this series of the webinars, today we are presenting a webinar on a very important and relevant topic, that is circular economy for the telecom sector. Adopting a circular economy system by telecom companies implies leaving materials and products in a constant loop of usage. Everything must be productively used and reused as much as possible. Even if the product as a whole cannot be used, parts of it that are still operational should be reused. The circular economic system aims to minimize the creation of pollution, waste, and carbon emissions. By the time the sessions proceeds, I think we'll be knowing more about this particular circular economy, and I'll restrict that way myself only to my welcome address. At the outset, of course, I welcome Sri Ritu Ranjan Mittar, our advisor and head of the Telecom Engineering Center, the TEC, Department of Telecom, for his inspiring presence in this webinar. He is also the chairman of the Committee for Formulation of Action Plan on Economy in the Telecom Sector, instituted by the Government of India. I welcome him specially because in spite of his busy schedule, sir has kindly consented to inaugurate this particular webinar and also deliver the inaugural address. Sir, of course, your kind presence will definitely add a distinctive value to this webinar. I also welcome Sri Arun Agarwal, the DDG JNK LSA DOT, who will be delivering on the circular economy for telecom sector and overview. I also welcome Dr. J. Asundi, the Executive Director, and Dr. Anjali Taneja, Senior Policy Specialist and Group Head Sustainability, SISTEP, Center for Study of Science, Technology and Policy, Bangalore, who will be delivering on the policy initiative, challenges and opportunities for the circular economy in the telecom sector in India. I also welcome Dr. Reva Prakash, the Deputy Team Leader, EU Resource Efficiency Initiative, EUREI-ZIZ, who will be delivering on e-waste management in telecom sector and international best practices on the circular economy. By the time the session proceeds, I would like course to know about what is ZIZ. Dr. Shilpi, I also welcome Dr. Shilpi Karmakar, the Project Manager, Plastic Waste Management Project, United Nations Development Project, the UNDP, who will be delivering on creating an enabling environment for promoting the circular economy. I also welcome all the participants of this webinar. We are almost 98 now. Joining from the different parts of the country, and it's very heartening to know that this time in this webinar we have received registration from DOT headquarters, the field units of the DOT, the LSAs, the Telecom Engineering Center, the TEC, the Telecom Regulator TRAI, ASNL, TCIL, ITI, as well as our institution, NTI-PRIT, the various telecom associations like DIPA, COAI, the various telecom companies, and the academia as well. So it's been exciting and interesting that many stakeholders have connected to discuss and deliberate on this very important topic. I of course wish a very meaningful discussion and a great session ahead. My thanks and regards to everybody. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, sir, for your welcome address. Now I'll request Shri Ritu Ranjan Mittal, sir, advisor and head TEC, to deliver inaugural address and declare the webinar open.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dev Kumar Chakravarti, DG NTI-PRIT, esteemed speaker, Mr. Arun, Dr. Jay, Dr. Anjali, Dr. Reva, Dr. Shilpi, and participants from the Telecom fraternity. It's my privilege to be amongst you and to deliver the inaugural address. Digital connectivity based on wireless, wireline, and satellite technologies have become the backbone to access various services such as banking, e-commerce, and other citizen-centric services apart from the infotainment. Now, these services are feasible with only good, reliable, and high-speed digital connectivity. So this has put an unprecedented demand for digital communications and forced the telecommunication sector to consume more energy than ever, resulting in more carbon emissions. So this makes a perfect case for bringing in a concept of sustainability. We all are aware that United Nations has a set of sustainable development goals, and India is signatory to that goals. And there is a definite emphasis from Niti Aayog for all the departments to be compliant to that. Now, apart from carbon emissions, waste is the second major factor contributing to telecom companies' footprint. So since we are consuming more energy and the more network, the network is also expanding, and so are the customer premises equipment. So there is a definite need for telecom service provider to bring in a sustainability angle. So this is possible through one of the concepts with which this will be possible is circular economy. Now, circular economy as a concept emphasizes on preserving the value of the products, materials, and resources for as long as possible by maximizing the product life cycle and minimizing waste at the same time. A circular economy for the telecom sector is the one in which resources are kept in use for as long as possible and waste is minimized or eliminated. So it makes it also important that the telecom equipment is designed with durability, repairability, and recyclability in mind. Many of us are aware that MITI in July 2021 made a report on circular economy in electronics and electrical sector, and then it was followed up by a Niti Aayog action plan on circular economy in electronics and electrical sector. But the telecom sector has some differences apart from being based on the telecom equipment being based on electronics. It has its special requirements. So there is definitely a requirement for a action plan on the telecom sector, which this committee, as Mr. Dev mentioned, which I'm chairing, and all the August speakers are participating, and they're also contributing there. So the webinar on circular economy for telecom sector will deliberate on overview, policy initiatives, challenges and opportunities, best practices, e-waste management in reference to implementation of circular economy for telecom sector. It will not be out of place to mention that ITU in its framework for 6G, which they call ITU framework for mobile communication for 2030 and beyond. So green communication or sustainability is the overarching requirement. And I would also like to place kind of on record here that in a recent 6G standardization workshop in IMC on 28th and 29th November, there was not even a single speaker who didn't touch upon the sustainability aspect. So definitely action plan on circular economy is the need of hour, and an action plan should guide us to achieve the targets on circular economy. Having said that, I would like to congratulate NTI PRIT head Dr. Chakrabarti, Mr. Atul, Mr. Saurabh for planning a webinar on the topic, which is so very crucial as we move ahead. And I'm sure this is the on the topic. This is the first seminar, and it will be followed by more detailed talks. And I thank also the esteemed speakers for sparing their valuable time and sharing their expertise with all our participants. With this, I would like to declare the webinar. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, sir, for your inaugural address. And it's a perfect tone for further technical deliberations of this webinar. So thanks a lot, sir. And thanks a lot to all esteemed speakers of this webinar and all guests here who have joined this inaugural session. And with the kind permission of the chair, now I want to start the first technical session. So now before we start the technical session, a small word for smooth conduction of the webinar. Kindly note that after each technical session, there is a question answer session of 5 minutes duration for that particular session. So therefore, it is requested to kindly write or drop your questions in the chat box. Secondly, depending on the availability of time, 2-3 questions from the chat box shall be taken up with the expert speaker of that session, and remaining questions in the chat box shall be mailed to the expert speakers, and their replies shall be provided to the participants of the webinar subsequently. So now with this, I'm going to start first technical session that is on circular economy for telecom sector. An overview. This is by Sri Arun Agrawal, the Deputy Director General, GNK LSA DOT. Now, brief about him. Sri Arun Agrawal holds a bachelor degree in electronics engineering and an MBA. He's an ITS officer of 1990 batch and has 31 years of experience in various areas of telecom such as planning, installation, standardization, rural telecom, USO scheme, etc. Presently, he's working as Deputy Director General in Department of Telecom at Jammu, J&K. He is also a member of DOT's Apex Committee on Circular Economy in Telecom sector. So I welcome Sri Arun Agrawal, sir, and request him to start his presentation.
Thank you very much. Would you please make me the presenter?
Sir, you are presenter already. Sir.
Okay. Thank you. Just a minute.
I think there is some noise from your side.
I am trying to upload it.
Sir, your screen is visible, sir.
So now the presentation is visible?
No, sir.
Not the presentation.
Your folder is visible, sir.
Just a minute.
Yes.
Is it visible now, the presentation?
Yes. Perfectly, sir. It is visible. You are audible, sir. Please go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Good morning and namaskar to all. I am thankful to NTI PRIT for organizing this webinar on circular economy and also inviting me to be a speaker. So as we all know that now circular economy or other we should say sustainable development is a very important issue the world over and especially in India because the Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji has placed very strong emphasis on ecology along with economic development and technological development. So, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, that is one earth, one family, and one future, that we all know is the way forward. That is the only path that we will have to follow to sustain and develop in this world. Industrial revolution has given us many things in the last century, practically, and mass production has become possible. Machines have been set up, and the raw materials used. So the goods have been available quite cheaply, cost effectively. Life of the people has become a bit comfortable. However, we all know that this has come at a cost. This automatic manufacturing requires huge resources in the form of material as well as energy. Very energy intensive operation is there, and along with energy, the manufacturing factories also emit polluting gases also. So as per an estimate, if we consume the resources as per the current rate of consumption, then by 2050, the rate of consumption of resources would be 3 times higher than the rate at which the earth can replenish them. We have got only one earth. There is no, we do not have any other planet. So we have finite resources. Now the whole world has become one family. So if one country is facing resource deficit, it is affecting the whole world, the future of the whole world. So we say that now our problems are global. Similarly, the problem of pollution and greenhouse gases emission, because we all know that energy intensive, we are using very high energy. So for producing energy, what is required? We have to use some kind of some material like fossil fuels, or we will have to use some other kind of fuels. So if we use this type of fuels, then they create a lot of greenhouse gas emissions. The Earth is facing an unprecedented challenge of global warming because of these greenhouse gas emissions. So what is the way out? So global warming is a very big climate challenge, and it is a reality. The world is facing its devastating consequences. We have witnessed recently in India, there have been floods in Uttarakhand, Himachal, landslides, and so many other problems which have badly affected the general people and also resulted in economic loss of thousands of crore rupees in India. The idea is that we should have a sustainable development model which is sufficient to meet the requirements of our generation as well as the future generation. We should not exhaust the resources for our generations only. We should take care of the future generations also. Similarly, in the recent Paris Accord, the target of limiting global warming to the 1.5 degrees Celsius of above the pre-industrial temperature level has been set, and India has accorded very high importance to it. We are working on it, and we are trying to limit the electricity generation from fossil fuels to 50% only, and 50% from the non-fossil fuels. So that is the idea how our country is moving in the right direction, and that is very much reflected in the Panchamrit announcement at the Paris Accord and in the G20 Delhi Declaration. So now we come to the next segment, linear versus circular economy. So linear economy is the traditional model of the economy. We take the resources from the earth or from through some other means, then we use them in a plant, we manufacture something, we consume them to the extent possible, and then we throw away them. Throw away them, after that nobody bothers as to what is happening to the discarded goods. So this traditional model of linear economy is called take, make, dispose, step-by-step plan. However, there are so many drawbacks. This economic model depends on more consumption. The more consumption is there, the more manufacturing is there, the more use of resources is there, and then there is no replenishment practically, or the rate of replenishment of the resources, it is much less than the rate of extraction. There is no emphasis on sustainability in this model. So everything is primarily driven by the profit. Now, as a result, we see huge mountains of garbage on the outskirts of every big city. Delhi, we all know this is a very big problem outside Delhi, and many times it leads to fire hazards also. Further, these garbage mountains also emit very polluting gases. So excessive pressure on the ecosystem jeopardizes the provision of essential ecosystem services such as water, air, and soil cleaning, and polluting all the natural resources. Now, one of the wastes is e-waste. E-waste is any type of electrical and electronic product that is either discarded or is going to be discarded at the end of the useful life. As there is not much incentive to the manufacturer for extending its useful life, there is much less emphasis on repair. And nowadays, use and throw culture has given way to our old culture of durable goods and repairing them to the extent possible. We are aware of all the kinds of sources of e-waste. A pictorial diagram is given here. India is the third largest e-waste producer after China and USA, and India is also the fifth largest economy of the world. There has been a huge generation of e-waste, and it is growing at a fast rate also. In 2020-21, 13.46 lakh metric ton e-waste was generated, whereas in the next year it was 16 lakh metric ton, out of which only 33% e-waste was collected and processed, and the rest was I think most of this e-waste was collected by the kabadis, and then they disposed it in an irresponsible and unsafe manner, which pollutes the environment and also emits hazardous gases. So the regular recycling method is not a scientific method. The recycling rate is very low. The precious materials which can be extracted, that is also not done efficiently. 50% of the recyclers do not use their capacity because the waste does not reach them. It is done generally through the informal sector. Here comes the need for circular approach, which is a new vision for production and consumption of electronic and electrical goods. And it treats e-waste not as a problem, but as an opportunity. Designers, manufacturers, investors, traders, all stakeholders, they have a crucial role to play in reducing e-waste, retaining value within the system, extending the economic and physical life of an item, as well as its ability to be repaired, recycled, and reused. So without the cooperation and involvement of all the relevant stakeholders, it is difficult to move on the path of circular economy. So circular economy is a model of production and consumption, and its aim is to reduce waste to a minimum. The materials are kept to the extent possible. And so there is a departure from the traditional economical model. In the traditional model, we are talking about only two things, which is technology and economy. Here, environment is also involved. So what are the attributes of circular economy? This pictorial diagram very succinctly depicts it. Raw materials are there, then we convert them into products, we consume them, and then waste is there, waste facility is there, and landfill is there. Along with this traditional model, we are seeing that there is feedback. There is a reverse loop also, and the reverse loop is for reuse it, for recycling it, and then extracting the materials from it and again using them, so that on the one hand, the consumption of raw material decreases, and then on the other hand, durability also increases. The manufacturing is also reduced, so there is less energy consumption and there is less emission of greenhouse gas emission also. So we see that circular economy aims to reduce waste and emissions and actively improve the environment also. Now we come to circular economy in telecom sector. We all know that the telecom sector is one of the sunrise industries. It is a very fast growing sector of economy and adds hugely to the economy. No economic sector can grow in today's time without support or without use of telecommunication. Even increasing broadband penetration by 10% increases the GDP growth by 1%. That is well known. Telecom sector also reduces greenhouse gas emission because it reduces the need of transportation. Today we are having webinar because we are connected through telecommunication. Has there been no telecom connectivity, everybody would have to join physically, and that would have been very difficult, and also travel would have cost a lot, as well as it has given rise to huge generation of greenhouse gases. So this segment discusses the above issue with focus on circular economy, which is paving the way for a holistic, comprehensive, more practical approach for sustainable development, including e-waste management. And also, Niti Aayog and Ministry of Communication, they have also come out with a circular economy plan for electronics and electrical sector, and that plan is also discussed in brief here. Overview of the telecom sector, there has been a huge growth since 2014 especially. We have reached subscription to the level of broadband subscription to 86 crore, and huge infrastructure is also there nowadays. The total number of base stations has reached over 27 lakh, and FDI in telecom is also improving like anything. Today we are having more than 700 US million FDI in Indian telecom sector. 5G has already reached more than 700 districts, and India has a robust optical fiber infrastructure of over 35 lakh route kilometers. 2 lakh gram panchayats are also connected. So this So just by having a look at this slide, we can see that telecom is a huge sector. And so there is a huge scope for circular economy also. This is also a very important segment, and rather I should say an engine of growth of the economy of India. Definition of circular economy is telecom. As per ITU, it is restorative and regenerative by design and aims to keep productive components and materials at their highest utility and value at all times while reducing waste streams. And what is the meaning of reduction? Ideally, net zero. Though it is very difficult to reach it, but ideally, in an ideal circular economy, there will be no waste. All the products will be used through extraction after their end of life for some other purpose. There is a rationale behind the circular economy. It is a byproduct of digital transformation of the economy. And then we all know that the economic demand, if we want that India should grow and the general public should have a good standard of living, they require goods and services for which there is required, more material is required. But the resources are finite. So extraction from the used material is the way ahead. So there are economic benefits, there are environmental benefits, as there is much less greenhouse gas emission if we use the circular economy model, and there are societal benefits also, as a number of people we get employment if circular economy model is there through reuse, repair, and recycling industry. When I was in college, I learned that any technology is feasible if we can use it for production or in industry. That is, there should be techno-commercial feasibility. There should be techno-commercial viability. But now we all know that a third dimension has been added, and that is environmental sustainability. So until unless a process or a technology meets all the three yardsticks, it is not a good proposition for use. So sustainable telecom with connectivity, with circularity is the way forward. There are some important aspects of circular economy in the telecom sector, and they are defined in ITUT recommendation L.1022. These are repairability, durability, and reusability, that is the same product can be used by some other purpose, or what we say second-hand products, they can be used. And then recyclability, that the product should be designed in such a manner that after the end of life, we can extract material, useful material from it. And this extraction results in huge saving also. And we get very useful secondary raw materials. For example, gold, silver, palladium, copper, we can extract them. 1 ton ore, if we use of gold and then we extract gold from it, then only 1.4 gram gold is extracted. But if we use 1 ton of mobile phone PCBs, then we can get 1.5 gram gold. And it also results in 75% energy saving also. These are some other attributes: recoverability, and then refurbishability, remanufacturability, that is some parts or components of a good can be used for producing some other item, and then upgradability, that a product can be upgraded to the next version. It should be designed in such a manner that its functionality, performance, or capacity can also be upgraded as per the requirement. But how can we achieve all these attributes? So one of the most important thing is design. 80% of the circularity is decided by the design phase. Design should be modular and should be done in such a manner that it can be repaired, it can be reused, and it can be recycled. E-waste generation in India is there and it will grow because as the economy grows, the requirements of the people will grow. However, circular economy helps it. Now we see that a typical composition of materials present, what a typical composition of material present in a e-waste. Like we see that more than 60% in printed, about 1.7% is printed circuit board, over 60% are metals, and then plastics are there, metal plastic mixtures are there, pollutants are there. Further, if we take the value of the extracted materials like palladium, gold, silver, copper, which are precious metals, so we find that by value about 66% of palladium can be extracted. Similarly, other precious metals can also be extracted. So this meets the twin requirements of raw material. So there is less extraction from the earth and also reduction in green gases emission. Now in the recent past, many steps have been taken by the government of India for e-waste management. We have come out with the e-waste management rules 2022, which have come into force from April 2023. Now in e-waste management rules 2022, all stakeholders have been involved. And these rules are applicable to electrical and electronic equipment, including IT and telecom equipment. It also mandates reduction in the use of lead, mercury, that is hazardous materials. Extended producer responsibility, which was also a part of the last version of these rules, is also there and in a much more amplified way here. First thing is that the e-waste can be recycled only through the registered recyclers, and extended producer responsibility is the responsibility of the producer of electrical equipment for responsible and safe disposal of the equipment. And there are defined targets for it. The producer is required to fulfill the extended producer responsibility or EPR, and the certificates shall be subject to environmental audit by the CPCB, Central Pollution Control Board. Now the framework is there. It is a well-defined framework. It gives the definition of manufacturer, producer, refurbisher, bulk consumer, recycler. Due to paucity of time, I will not go into detail. I will just mention. The presentation will be shared, I think, with all. And there are responsibilities of the governments, state government, and union territories, as well as central government also. Like the governments have to recognize and register the workers involved in dismantling and recycling. They assist it, they facilitate them. They have to get involved in skill development activities, and they should also monitor them annually. Now there is a schedule 1 to these rules which defines the categories of electrical and electronic equipment, and the first is information technology and telecommunication equipment. So here telecom equipment are also covered very comprehensively. There are various types of equipment devices like laptop, personal computers, typewriters, and then telephones, GPS, all types of other devices like UPS, inverter. So total 27 items are covered. There are many other items which I'm not covering here because they are not very much relevant to us. So these rules are very comprehensive and mandatory and define the responsibility of all the stakeholders. Now, Schedule 4 is specifically about the extended producer responsibility, and it defines as to how a producer has to meet its duty in this regard. Like it provides the e-waste recycling target by weight, and it also defines that average life of every product will be provided by CPCB. Now they have been defined also. So for example, if a product has a life of say 10 years and it was produced in the market in 2013, 14. So after 10 years, that is in 2023-24, 60% of the quantity of the product placed on the market should be recycled. Means the producer should provide the certificates through a registered agency that they have been collected and recycled, and this target goes with time. So we find that circular economy is a very focused area of the government, and our Honorable Prime Minister in his Independence Day speech in 2021 also emphasized on circular economy, and they constituted committees, 11 committees, and one of the committees was on electronic and electrical equipment, and this committee provided its report under the chairmanship of Secretary Meety. Further, Niti Aayog also came out with an action plan in October 2021. So what does this action plan define? What are its main action points? It defines regulatory measures. It urges for development of standards and practices, sustainable product policies. It provides for formalization of informal sector, skill development, proper recycling methods, and then it urges for technology, for those machines and technologies which are cost effective. Then it also provides for setting up e-waste collection, segregation and disposal system, and also urges for identifying best available technologies to promote recycling. It encourages stakeholders to create awareness about e-waste management and to use various government schemes for recycling products better. It also identifies products with best environmental performance. It has focus on R&D to bring out new cost-effective, locally manageable technologies, processes to encourage innovation, startup and NGOs. And it also says for evaluation of the performance, productivity and waste discharges. So it is a very comprehensive plan. However, its main stress is on the device level and not on network and systems. Like it talks more about computers or other network devices, equipment devices, modems, etc. But it does not specifically talk on telecom. That is why there was a need for an action plan for circular economy in telecom sector. So during a G20 review meeting taken by the Honorable Prime Minister in November 2022, Telecom Department was assigned the task of formulating an action plan. So discussions were initiated with various stakeholders and ministries, including Niti Aayog, and then it was decided that our action plan should be specific to the telecom issues. After that, an inter-ministerial committee was formed, which had representation from industry and academia also. And this committee took up this task. A subcommittee was also constituted. And now I'm happy to share with all of you that we have come almost a finalized draft in this regard. Further, it was also decided that we should take a lead and formulate a vision document on circular economy, like DOT has formulated a 6G vision document. These slides provide a snapshot as to how we have moved in this direction. Honorable Prime Minister's speech on Independence Day, and then even before that, Niti Aayog's 11 committees. MITI came out with a plan, and then there was a G20 review meeting, and finally we have come out with a report, and there is a very robust framework of ITU L series in this regard, which has been very useful, and we have taken liberally from this framework also. The action plan and the draft strategy which the committee has formulated is very facilitative and consultative in manner. It provides various encouraging incentives, and it is affirmative in nature. It recommends to add minimum burden on industry and stakeholders in terms of compliance. When we were in this process, the industry had very apprehension that it will provide an additional layer of compliance burden. However, these recommendations do not provide any compliance burden. It just covers the subject in a very affirmative manner and urges all the stakeholders. There is voluntary participation in various initiatives and activities. Further, there is incentivization in various government policies and schemes to the industry and startups for adoption of this model. And then the action plan mentions timelines of short, medium, and long-term goals. The recommendations are very comprehensive, and they have been prepared in a very collaborative and consultative manner. The policy initiatives and support for innovations are there for circularity and design for environment. We know that there are various Government of India schemes for Atmanirbhar Bharat and to support startups and R&D, like Production Linked Incentive Scheme, PMI, Preference to Make in India, TTDF, Telecom Technology Development Fund, and DCIS. And we have tried to add another dimension of circularity. For example, in the PLI scheme, recently 1% additional incentive is for design-led. So now we have suggested that if a product has circularity also, then additional incentive to the tune of 1% will also give. Similarly, in PMI scheme, it is suggested that additional component of say 5% may be given as a bonus with the local content if a product meets circularity. In TTDF, it is recommended that some kind of earmarking may be there for the product which are green in nature and energy saving and for green telecom. It also provides a regulatory framework for sustainable telecom based and sharing platforms. So it just covers various regulatory framework and how we can use them and how we can leverage them to further the cause of circularity. Then enforcement and surveillance mechanism is also discussed. And in order to reduce human intervention to minimum and inspector Raj to the minimum, in line with the government's ideology of maximum governance, minimum government, it is recommended that IT, blockchain, AI-based monitoring and surveillance system should be there. Then it talks about setting up of a national center for circular economy in communication. We know that National Center for National Communication Center for security is already there, considering the requirement of telecom security. Therefore, a circular economy is the future. Is the future. So it is recommended that it should be given its due importance, and that for that purpose, a separate center may be set up. Then it talks about encouraging advancement and recycling technologies, creating awareness and capacity building through studies and pilots. Like we have got about 27 lakh base stations, and after the end of life, generally we do not know how they are disposed of. So it talks about conducting studies and pilots for their safe and responsible recycling and disposal. There is an ITU standard for it. Similarly for batteries also. Battery is the heart of any telecom equipment. So it talks about studies and pilot for their safe and responsible disposal and for other telecom equipment also. Then there are various collaborative and partnership and talent building models with the support and with the, I think, inspiration of NTI PRIT. Now 5G course has been included in the AICT curriculum, and many universities have adopted it. Along the same lines, it is suggested that a course on circular economy and telecom should also be introduced by AICT, because now telecom is pervasive across all engineering disciplines, and all engineering discipline sectors uses telecom for connectivity as well as for monitoring and surveillance. So it is high time a course on circular economy in telecom or ICT should be introduced by AICT. And then it talks about the review of existing rules and guidelines, that as and when they are reviewed, they should take into account the global best practices as well as standard. For example, ITU standard. Now we are specifying the average life of equipment under the EPR model. CPCB has come out, but the industry has represented, telecom industry has represented to DOT that it will provide additional burden, as the average life doesn't seem to be very appropriate. So according to the committee, the average life should be defined, taking into account all the aspects of circular economy in telecom, say durability, repairability, reusability also. So there should be more emphasis on durability. So average life should also take into account, and it should not be less than that. Otherwise, it will encourage more use of resources, more greenhouse gas emission, and then exhaustion of the earth resources, which goes against the principles of circular economy. So now I end my presentation with an extract from the G20 New Delhi's declaration, and how it has given crucial importance to circular economy. So we all know that under the presidency of our great country, in the recent G20 New Delhi declaration, there have been many initiatives, there have been 12 commitments. Out of these 12 commitments, 4 commitments are directly related to environment and circularity. And there is a specific para on circularity, which I will just read. In order to endeavor to decouple our economic growth from environmental degradation and enhance sustainable consumption and production, including primary resource consumption while supporting economic growth. We acknowledge the critical role played by circular economy, extend producer responsibility, and resource efficiency in achieving sustainable development. So, in this context of sustainable consumption and production, a circular economy pathway presents a model to reconcile the need of economic development along with tackling the challenge of resource scarcity and global climate change. The document presents a strategy to usher in a circular economy in the telecom sector. So, this is all from my side. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, sir. Such a nice presentation on overview of circular economy for telecom sector. Very nicely you have covered all the aspect. Of course, action plan also was covered. So just a one question is there in the chat. If you would like to answer, sir. The question says obsolescence of mobile handset is a serious issue in telecom sector with average age of handset at 3 years max. Can there be a mandate to the manufacturers to compulsorily recycle them by giving a reasonable value to the end customer?
Actually, recycling cannot be a mandate under the existing e-waste rules. The idea of the circular economy is durability also. And as I just discussed, design is the most important phase. Now the PCB can be designed in such a manner that its disassembly is easy and then it is modular in design. So different parts can also be repaired of the PCB and the mechanism should also be there so that it can be repaired, the skill should be transferred, spare parts are available. If all these things are there, and then the durability and the life of a mobile will get extended. So, as per the government's nowadays governance model, such things I believe should not be mandated. They should be voluntary in nature and affirmative in nature. Like we see that nowadays many people are using organic products. So similarly, organic products is also for conserving the nature, for saving the nature and replenishing the nature. Similarly, if there is emphasis, there is stress and awareness about circular economy, people will themselves voluntarily get involved. In Delhi nowadays, now the children, they do not insist for crackers because now they are more aware about it. So I think it is just a matter of awareness. And I do not believe that any kind of mandation, making anything mandatory, according to me, is not a good model. Awareness and voluntary action is the way forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Very nicely covered, sir. And the stage is right for further deliberation in this particular aspect. So thanks a lot, sir, for your presentation. Now we start with the technical session 2, that is policy initiatives, challenges, and opportunities for circular economy in telecom sector of India. It is by Dr. Jay Asundi, Executive Director, and Dr. Anjali Taneja, Senior Policy Specialist and Group Head, Sustainability, C-Step, Bangalore. So just brief about the Dr. Jay Asundi. He's the Executive Director at C-Step, Bangalore. He's a
Saurabh, has
passionate
he
about...
joined? Saurabh, has Dr. Jai joined?
Yes, he has joined actually. He's there. Yes, one of the presenters. Yes.
Okay. Fair. Then please go ahead. Yeah.
So he's a passionate about sustainable development. His research interests lie in the area of digital technology for development and decision support for public policy problems. He's a senior member of the IEEE and holds MS and PhD degrees from Carnegie Mellon University, Pittsburgh, where he is currently adjunct associate professor in the Department of Engineering and Public Policy. So I warmly welcome Dr. Ajay Sundi. Further, the co-presenter in this presentation is Dr. Anjali Taneja. She is an economist and seasoned sustainability expert. She holds a doctorate degree in international studies with a focus on human capital development in South Asia from JNU. Over the last 15 years, Dr. Taneja has led several sustainability initiatives during her tenure with UNDP, Ashoka University, and national industry chambers like FICCI and CII in India and overseas. She has also been associated with the Government of India in various development initiatives. And during her professional tenure, Dr. Taneja has spearheaded evidence-based research, thought leadership, and science policy initiative, as well as programs targeted towards achieving sustainable development. Also, she is a member of the Government of India's committee and some subcommittee on circular economy in telecom sector led by DOT. So I warmly welcome both the speakers, a distinguished speaker of this particular technical session. Now stage is yours, ma'am.
Uh, Thank you. Thank you, Saurabh And I think Dr. Jaya Sundi has also joined, but I'm not sure whether he can hear us at the moment. So anyway, I will um, take it forward because I can see him as one of the presenters, but I'm not sure whether he's able to hear us or if there is any problem from his end in the connection. Um, Jay, are you there? Okay, I guess. Okay, so thank you so much. Is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, audible.
Okay,
Your screen is visible.
okay, great. Thank you so much, Saurabh and to NTIPRIT for giving us this opportunity to speak at this very relevant topic. We have been contributing towards the preparation of the strategy and action plan document and the vision paper. And hopefully, from a think tank perspective, we feel that it's the need of the hour and it's very timely initiative taken by the government of India. Quickly, just to briefly, in fact, these were the slides that Jay had to present. So I will just quickly introduce about what is C-STEP. Um, Basically, C-STEP was actually founded in 2005 by late Sri Padma Vibhushan Dr. V.S. Arunachalam, and he was a former scientific advisor to the Raksha Mantri. And the offices, the headquarters are in Bangalore, and there is one office that is also in Noida. And at the moment, our core values actually sustain that along how C-STEP sustains. It's actually a not-for-profit think tank. It's sustained around independent research independence, that is collaborative thinking, research independence, thought leadership, and a constant learning environment. Um, the model that we generally follow in C-STEP is essentially related to enriching the policy making space, supporting the government in their initiatives, enriching the policy advocacy, and as well as at the same time enabling for a sustainable, secure, and inclusive society. Um, the grand challenges in this field are essentially that we generally follow at C-STEP are uh, essentially towards the I would say the key initiatives that we undertake is actually to move towards these grand challenges, overcoming them towards green energy transition, clean air for all, sustainable and secure society, and as well as enabling them through a digital platform, a digital transformation. Um, Some of the select capabilities at C-STEP where we generally are engaged in, essentially our work is engaged in basically in technology and policy assessment, computational tools, modeling analysis with respect to techno-economic analysis, life cycle assessments, and as well as instrumentization when respect to air quality, detecting air quality sensors. In fact, C-STEP has been instrumental in driving the air quality domain of as a challenge basically towards building up a whole nationwide platform on air quality, and it is now actually called as a Center for Air Quality Studies at C-STEP. And these are some of the support factors that we have been garnering over the years in terms of some of the institutions that have been supporting us. This is basically about C-STEP. Now I will move on to our topic. So the topic for the day that we had was this technical session talked about was more of what is the status of the telecom potential in the country, and what are the challenges, the risks, the factors, and from a think tank perspective, what we think could be done. How can we convert the challenges into opportunities? So I think a huge part of it was actually discussed by Arunji in his previous presentation when he talked about the potential that India has in terms of the telecom space. That today India is when it comes to the telecom sector, it is not only the world's second largest telecom market, but by 2025, it is also expected to become the second largest smartphones market in the world. And contributing around 6% to the GDP, at the same time generating employment opportunities, a huge investment potential in the space. FDI is great, is large in the space. And at the same time, when we talk about infrastructure development, there are a series of initiatives that the government of India is taking in this field to build the optical fiber networks, strengthen them across the country. At the same time, when we talk about some of the existing challenges that if I'm sure you are aware that telecom sector per se, the waste generation telecom sector, telecom is considered under the e-waste, like Arunji clearly pointed out in his presentation. And e-waste at the moment, there have been a series of initiatives, but at the same time, there are some challenges that India is still grappling with in terms of when we come to the recycling potential of e-waste. It's basically close to 20%, which is less compared to when we compared to other developed countries. And when it comes to the informal sector, the informal economy, that is quite penetrated in the waste generation space because of a lot of the waste that is generated leads to the landfills, and actually 95% of the waste is actually covered by the informal sector. So we are not sure at what level the waste is recycled or repurposed. So that is why the need of the hour is actually to have a concerted focus on circular economy, which in the telecom sector, especially because MeitY, as Arunji pointed out, has come up with a plan of action in the e-waste segment, especially for the telecom field. There is something that is now required to be undertaken. At the same time, if we talk about, one of the another challenge that the telecom sector essentially faces is basically the product design constraints. So in this respect, when we talk about some of the studies that have pointed out is that the printed circuit boards, that is a PCBs, they are what generally happens is that because there are not proper recycling facilities or essentially the infrastructure that is required for resource recovery. So a lot of these boards that are at the end of life, they are shredded in Karnataka, for instance, in one of the states, and then shipped to other countries for metal recovery. So what is the need of the hour is actually to have a well concerted action on circular economy in the telecom sector. A lot of infrastructure focus should be there, and at the same time, when we talk about the value chain in the telecom space, it is a little complicated because there are numerous components and numerous suppliers of these components at each stage, which makes the value chain a little complicated. And as a result, it also brings us the opportunity to endorse more studies or more policies to promote design for environmental principles that is in the telecom space, so that at least if there are collaborations between the designers and the operators in that context, then it would actually lead to a more concerted action on the ground on the recycling and the repurposing stage. I think a lot of this has been covered before, so I will not spend so much time on it. When we talk about the benefits of circular economy in telecom, they are widespread, ranging from the economic to the environment to the societal benefits. And of course, when it comes to circular economy, it will also give India a global edge when we bring about because India, of course, second largest telecom market. So bringing in the recycling and the repurposing or reusing space and using it more efficiently would actually also give India that global edge that might be missing at the moment in the telecom space. Um, uh, just slightly, talking about the policy initiatives at the global level. These are some of the initiatives that we studied in this domain that have been being carried out in other countries across the world. So, for instance, EU, for that matter, they have a very well structured WEEE initiative, which is on electrical and electrical equipments. And ICT apparently is also a part of the waste, the WEEE initiative. They cover that, the telecom waste, as well as a part of the WEEE initiative. They also have a circular economy action plan in place, which that was put into action in 2021. And as on date, around countries like Croatia, or basically Belgium, these countries have a recycling rate of around 82% in the telecom sector. So this is again the developed country, but if we also look at some of the emerging economies like Japan, for instance, in Asia, they also have a kind of the R&D efforts, the research and development efforts in the field of telecom sector are immense in Japan. And they already have a recycling program. And at the same time, there is a recycling law that was introduced sometime in 2000s, the millennium decade, where a focus was on how to bring about collectors as well as recyclers together of the telecom equipments, and how they can be recycled. A huge part of that burden is borne by the manufacturers. So it is a responsibility of the manufacturers to see that this waste is recycled properly. At the same time, when we talk about Australia, they actually have a national television and computer recycling scheme, which covers a large part of the telecom equipment as well. And as a part of that, they have collection centers across the country where the waste generated from the telecom equipment can be collected, and then the manufacturers can actually get it recycled at certain stages with the nodal agency. So these are some of the initiatives that we have read across the world. Having said that, it is not necessary that we have to replicate these, but the whole point is to how best we can come to synergies on what is happening across the world and learn from them and ideate in the Indian context. When it comes to India, India is definitely not lagging behind in the field, in this field, because there have been a large number of initiatives that have been taken by the government of India. TRI has been focusing extensively on building up a green and sustainable telecom industry, telecom sector. And at the same time, if we look at the e-waste regulations in this field, they have been emerging, growing, and also evolving at the same time. So, the latest one is the e-waste guidelines of 2022, which actually brings in the focus of extended producer responsibility and also the producer linked initiative scheme, which encourages locally produced or manufacturing of these components. At the same time, India is also, focusing on extended outreach of broadband connections. So they have a national broadband. The government of India has also introduced a national broadband mission, which targets to enhance the broadband connectivity by 2025 to 2030 across most of the states and rural and remote areas of the country. There is also an initiative to enhance the optical fiber cable network across the country. And by 2025, the government of India's vision is actually to enhance it to 50 lakh cable networks across the country. And in this regard itself, numerous initiatives are now being undertaken to expand collaborations with the industry and how they can build the networks across the country, especially targeting the highways. Um, so now having talked about the initiatives in this field, where do we feel that there are opportunities? How can we convert the challenges that I spoke about into more effective opportunities? So most of which actually was talked about by Arunji when he was talking about the action plan that now the government of India is coming up, in a more comprehensive way. But what we essentially feel is that there should be the sector itself can help with a very overall positive impact with respect to energy savings and resource efficiency. And that could be cross-sectoral when we talk about the opportunities. So, for instance, opportunities lie in the field of adopting technologies to ensure transparency, to ensure more like AI and digital platforms, AI, machine learning, to actually enhance that transparency or more accountability of network service providers, and ensure that the transactions are more seamless in this field. Similarly, a lot of effort can also be put in skills development, capacity building, where at the same time we generate awareness, but also build the capacities of the industry and the academicians in this field to see how best the students or especially the industry can actually benefit from adopting circular economy in the telecom sector. At the same time, as I said, that some of the countries in Asia are actually putting a lot of efforts in R&D, and we can learn from them and advance our R&D efforts in this field. Developing, doing more life cycle assessments or feasibility studies of whether there of whether there is a need. If it's suppose we are talking about a national center, what are the requirements of putting across that national center on circular economy in telecom? At the same time, we are doing, as I said, we are pursuing, the government of India is pursuing a lot of initiatives in the telecom sector. How can we harness on the current initiatives is very important, that we should learn from our best practices and collaborate in the best possible fashion. Um, these are some of the areas that I have touched upon, which I said during the previous slide, that for instance, if we talk about technology, so technology is a very powerful tool or a powerful mechanism to actually evaluate, monitor the extent of circular economy. And when I talk about technology, it is about Internet of Things. It is about artificial intelligence, machine learning. It is about blockchains. How can these be adopted in the best possible fashion to ensure a seamless transformation to circular economy, and at the same time monitor and track the progress of the industry in the circular economy field, especially in the telecom sector. So technology has a very important role to play, but at the same time, it should not be considered that it is just it has to be balanced out with the human efforts. So when we are talking about AI, for instance, it is important that though we know that AI could be used for predictive maintenance, but what are the machine learning tools that could be adopted, manually fed in? That is important to understand when we talk about technology. So it could be a collaborative effort, putting more emphasis on technology and at the same time complementing it with human efforts. Second, I briefly talked about the capacity building field, and that is something which is very, very essential. And I think Arunji also touched a bit upon that in his previous slides, that when we talk about circular economy in the telecom space, first is not many people are aware. There is lack of awareness in this field, and at the same time, when we talk about how can it be seamlessly implemented in the telecom sector, so how would the industry benefit out of it, or how would the off-takers who would be recycling or repurposing the telecom waste, how would they benefit out of it? That is something. And at the same time, converging or merging the informal sector to the formal economy, that to the formal sector, that is essential, and that could be done through various capacity building initiatives. So one could be workshops or trainings, especially molded or driven towards the industries and meant for them, and at the same time doing some more awareness sensitization programs on the ground, so that people understand how to manage the waste and dispose of that waste. At the same time, having more collaborative initiatives where we bring in the informal disposing communities and have discussions with the formal counterparts, that could help in bridging the gap between the informal and the formal economy. I think CPCB is taking a good initiative in this field, where they are setting up a platform, an online platform, where now all the telecom operators, or basically they would telecom licensors would have to first register their details. So basically, when it comes to manufacturer and as well as the executor, all will have to register their details online through that portal. So I think that will, to a large extent, cover up this gap of informal penetration in the field. At the same time, I did focus upon the research and development aspect, that is strengthening research and development in this field, where it's very important that we do feasibility studies, identifying essential criteria for integrating critical resources, or basically circular economy resources, into the existing schemes, and seeing how they would benefit to the growth of the country. And at the same time, we could also explore the possibility of doing pilot case studies, that is running some pilots in certain states of India, and see how those could be implemented at a nationwide, at a pan India scale. At the same time, if we actually have to understand that what would be the benefits of circular economy in the telecom space for the larger economy or for the environment, we would actually do some life cycle assessments, invest some of our efforts in conducting some techno-economic life cycle assessments, which can help us determine that in terms of the employment generation and emissions reduction, how much of circular economy in telecom sector has been successful. And finally, this is my last slide, which actually talks about what I have said before, that from a think tank perspective, if we have to say that what can we offer, bridge the gap between what are the challenges today and how we can bridge that, it could actually be through some initiatives that at the think tank level we can take and support the government in terms of building enabling the government to set up digital platforms for smooth transparency and effective engagements through the digital space. At the same time, conducting some capacity building workshops and feasibility studies. And what is important here is to actually bring up the knowledge domain, strengthen that at the back end, so that at least when we bring out the circular economy space to the outside world in the telecom sector, it turns out to be a full-fledged comprehensive program, which is well thought of. So I would actually leave with this note that from a think tank perspective, it is very important to bring the research and development efforts and collaboration initiatives together. Only then circular economy in the telecom field could be a win-win for everybody. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. You have nicely covered policy initiatives, challenges, and opportunity for circular economy. There is one question in the chat box. I would like to just speak out. Uh, First is, what are the important challenges for implementing circular economy, which are ubiquitous globally, and what are the ones specific predominantly to Indian or Asia context in terms of policy, technology, supply chain, or consumer society, market, or anything else? So this is first question you would like to answer, ma'am.
Yes. So I think I did cover the aspect of challenges when I talk about implementing circular economy. So if Mr. Mishra, I think, so he has asked this question: if we are talking about circular economy in general, or it is limited to, if we are talking about, or is it like he's limiting it to telecom sector? Yes, I did mention that in my slides, where we are talking about, see, the major challenge today in the Indian context is which are ubiquitous global, and what are the ones specifically predominant to Indian. Yeah. So see, the major challenge today we talk about circular economy in general is that how can we implement the implementation aspect, okay? Because till date, we have been very much related to take, make, dispose model. That is a linear model. So globally, the challenge is that how could it be implemented or transformed? There are talks going on. There are a lot of deliberations going on in this field, that it is important to transform it eventually. But as I said, it does involve a lot of effort on the ground. So the biggest challenge that globally people are facing today, or the global countries are facing, that how to make this a reality, how to ensure that the waste that is being generated is actually recycled, repurposed, or reused. Because the monitoring of that waste is a challenge that is not happening, not only at the India level, but also at the global level. Though a lot of countries have actually come out with a matrix to, like circularity matrix, to identify or basically monitor, but that too is restricted to industries and at a certain level. But what happens to the waste once it reaches its end of life, once it has to be disposed of? There's a lot of informal penetration. So I would say it is not only an Indian problem. Globally across the world, the challenge is how to make this transformation from linear to circular seamless. So that was essentially the first answer to the question. And
There is
second, what
second.
are some of the, sorry, sir,
Yes,
carry on.
please go ahead.
Yeah,
Second
what are
question.
some of the areas in CE which requires further research are yet to be explored? So yes, CE, as I said, is it's like we have just scratched the surface. Okay, CE is a very widespread subject, and of course, Government of India is doing essentially a lot of initiatives. They have come up with strategic plans of action in CE in many fields. In fact, it's whether it's e-waste, whether it's municipal solid waste, whether it's solar PV is now an emerging field that is coming up. So I think if we talk about the areas in CE, it's starting from all the areas that contribute towards emissions. I think in those areas we need to have circular economy. This is a simple answer, that all those fields that contribute towards GHG emissions today or lead to more pollution, air pollution, or environmental degradation, I think those are all those sectors have to be taken into consideration when we talk about circular economy. And it requires it's actually a slow and steady process. It is not that overnight we will see changes. Like for instance, now we are seeing e-waste guidelines that are evolving, and I think in the Indian context, some incredible work is happening in the e-waste sector. Similarly, there are various subsections of e-waste like solar PV panels, and there is now this telecom, which is now which are now being considered very, very important in the Indian sphere. So I feel that all these sectors contribute a lot towards the growth of the economy, but also could lead to emissions. And these sectors are some of the sectors to start with when we talk about circular economy.
Thanks, ma'am. Thanks a lot. Ma'am, another question is there. That is
Yeah,
telecom
sure.
technology is changing in every 5 to 10 years, and safe disposal of obsolete equipments can not be linked with the manufacturer easily. Don't you think that there is a need for USO like government fund in which manufacturer compulsorily contribute, and same can be used to incentivize the safe disposal of telecom equipment at the expiry of its life?
Um, I think this is a very interesting question, and at the same time, the question Mr. Deepak has actually also given an answer to it. Yes, this is a very good suggestion, and I think what happens in the circular economy space when we talk about any particular field, there is always a clash between who would eventually recycle or repurpose the waste. So that is why the government comes into the picture and actually puts into consideration guidelines like extended producer responsibility, or basically guidelines like the PLI scheme, that is producer linked incentive scheme. Such responsibility puts the responsibility on the manufacturer as such. But in the telecom space, I think still there is this phenomenon of understanding that who would eventually come onto the burden too. That is, like other countries, there are the manufacturers who are actually taking the burden of recycling the waste. But would that be considered in the Indian context or not? But so it's actually a wait and watch approach. But the kind of suggestion that is given, that there should be a government fund in which the manufacturers could compulsory contribute, I think it is a good suggestion and could be considered at the government level, for their perusal. Because as from a think tank perspective, that yes, there could be there is no harm in having a nationwide fund in which the manufacturers, and not only why the manufacturers, just basically the end users should also contribute a certain percentage, and eventually then the decision could be taken on the basis of the extended producer responsibility guidelines, that who should be finally recycling that waste. So yeah, that is,
Thanks a lot, ma'am.
yeah,
As we are running behind the schedule,
sure,
I'll not take many further questions. But if you want, you can answer those, or we will mail it to you so that you can
sure.
comfortable at your pace. You can answer. Thank you.
Perfect.
Thanks a lot
Thank you
again
so much.
for a
And I
wonderful
would like to
session.
apologize on Jay's behalf. I think there was some internet
No, ma'am.
connection, so I'm so
No,
sorry
no,
on
no
that
issue,
behalf.
ma'am. No issue.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. So we move to our next technical session, that is on e-waste management in telecom sector and international best practices on circular economy. It will be delivered by Dr. Reva Prakash, Deputy Team Leader, EU Resource Efficiency Initiative, GIZ. So just brief about Dr. Reva Prakash. She is Deputy Team Leader and Project Coordinator with the JOESH GIZ for the European Union funded Resource Efficiency Initiative. She works on issues related to fostering resource efficiency and circular economy and of secondary resource utilization through a life cycle approach. She has worked on implementation of resource efficiency strategy launched by Niti Aayog and EU delegation to India, including support in the preparation of RE sectoral strategies on Triple E sector and construction and demolition waste. Earlier, she was responsible for operationalizing the Secretariat of the Indian Resource Panel towards development of recommendations for an Indian resource efficiency program. So I warmly welcome Ma'am Dr. Riva Prakash, and I'll request him to take the stage, ma'am. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank
You're
you.
muted. Yes, please.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for inviting me to present on such an important topic. And I'm very happy to also follow after such distinguished speakers. And I will try to also go through a little fast on. I think we don't have enough time. I do have a very extensive PPT, but I think that we will share those with all the participants later on. I'll try and cover the most important aspects of the. So, as Saurabh sir just mentioned, I am Reva. Am the deputy team leader for EU-funded Resource Efficiency Initiative, and just to share with everyone, so EU. REI is actually an important vehicle for EU and India partnership for on circular economy and resource efficiency, which has been in in place since 2020, and we work on mainstreaming the resource efficiency and circular economy thinking in the policy landscape, as well as work around awareness creation, building a broad-based discourse, capacity building, and facilitating partnerships on resource efficiency and circular economy in different sectors. And a lot of our work is actually focused on uh, integrating the principles of SDG 12, the responsible consumption and production, and support India in the larger SCP agenda. The work also seeks inspiration from the EU Green Deal, and we try and bring out some best practices internationally, especially from the EU and its member states, to see to see where they might be applicable in India. Uh, the project is embedded with the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, and we have been working with in the past with Niti Aayog, also with METI, now with Department of Telecom, Ministry of Textiles, and we are also working in two states in Goa and Rajasthan, specifically on aspects of circular economy. For example, looking at deposit refund schemes, looking at how to bring about a collection mechanism, discarded fishing nets, or how an integrated resource recovery park can come into place, and how what kind of master planning and zoning from an eco-industrial park approach can be done. So this is something that we have done in the past, and we continue to do currently. And something that Arun sir also mentioned, a lot of the entire work that we do is actually through the life cycle perspective. We try and identify different measures that are needed across different stages, including extraction, production, consumption, end of life, and emphasizing the important role of eco design throughout the entire life cycle, so that products last longer, are upgradable, recyclable, and cover most of the circular economy arts. So that is what we do. Like Arun sir also said, that the e-waste generation in India has also been growing year on year. Uh, these are some of the figures from CPCB over the last 6 years. And India is also currently the third largest electronic waste generator in the world. These are 2019 figures. Electronic e-waste, global e-waste monitors also has similar figures, mentioning that India has is the third largest generator of electronic waste. And in the country, we have had e-waste management rules, and sir has also touched upon these. So these rules were, I mean, the e-waste management rules in the country have been in place since 2011, and extended producer responsibilities has been a key instrument of the rules. And we currently have the latest version of the rules are called e-waste management rules 2022, and they have been in force since April 2023. These replace the last rules and include EPR as a key instrument. And yeah, and they are also, there's also an amendment. I will also talk about it later on. Yeah, these rules are applicable to all manufacturers, producers, refurbishers, dismantlers, and recyclers, and they mandate registration of the above-mentioned actors on the CPCB's e-waste EPR portal. They also outline responsibilities for bulk consumers, state government, UTs, and local bodies, mainly around responsible disposal of the e-waste to the registered recyclers. Any of the actors not mentioned above cannot essentially trade in the electronic waste. For example, therefore the informal sector is also not recognized in the rules. However, like Arun sir also mentioned, that the rules also make space for their formalization, also asks for capacity building of these of the informal sector workers that are involved in dismantling, and also their skills upgradations. The 2016 rules had a very short ambit, and the 2022 rules and the 2023 amendments have actually broadened the ambit of the items that are covered under the rules. They are more comprehensive than the rules that uh, were there before. And these are around 106 electronic and electrical equipments are included here, and they are classified under 7 distinct categories. And they also include now, I mean, most significant inclusion in 2022 rules was to also include solar PV panels, cells, and modules into the ambit of the e-waste. And when we talk about telecom sector, I mean, aside from the electronic equipments that are used for any of the telecom sector work, ITEF 17 and ITEF 18 specifically also mentions the products in the telecom sector, and also include BTS, all components of BTS, excluding structure of towers. Uh, One thing that I would like to also mention here, when they talk about producer, they also mean any retailer, whether they're e-retailers, brand owners, all of those are actually included within the definition of producers. Yeah, and these rules specifically establish obligations for producers, and the producers and refurbishers, recyclers, manufacturers have to now register on the portal, and they have to furnish important information with regards to their work, and producers especially must furnish information about the constituents of their equipment, as well as the components, consumables, parts, and spares, so as to have a better information on what is constituted in the electronic equipment sector. And they also need to declare compliance with regards to reduction of hazardous substances. This is an important part of the rule, and it has been part of most of our e-waste rules. And with time, and with better technological advancement, and with growth, this the compliance part is also revised over and over. And yeah, so this is an important part, because with regards to circular economy, when you also are recycling these products, then the products must also not just be recyclable and easy to recycle, but also the limiting of hazardous substance decreases the impact on health and environment that these products will have at the end of life. The rules also mandate that CPCB issues guidelines and SOP for both recyclers and producers, and these guidelines are actually available on the EPR portal. It also says that any entity without registration on the portal cannot conduct any business, and all the registered entities cannot deal with any unregistered entity. This is essentially to also minimize the leakages from the formal sector to the informal sector, where a lot of there's not just crude recycling, but there's also a lot of impact on the informal sector workers. I will not touch upon that, because the next speaker, Dr. Shilpi, will I think speak more about the informal sector workers as well. Yeah, and now the rules, within the rules, I will also show a brief picture of how this framework looks like. Within the rules, when these actors are registered on the portal now, the EPR certificates and refurbishing certificates can be issued. And there are specific provisions of how these will be issued. And the producers have a certain target uh, every year based on the previous year's sales or generation. And these targets are mentioned. Arun sir had also already covered this, so I will not go into detail. Something that is linked to these targets is also the provision for environmental compensation, verification, and audit processes. And there is also provision for returning of environmental compensation in case the producers meet their targets from last year's in the next years. So they also have a time um, through under which this can be given, after which the environmental compensation is not returned. There's also a steering committee that is constituted, and that is being led by the chairperson of Central Pollution Control Board, and it has also members from key ministries. Right. And like I mentioned before, there have also been an amendment to these rules. Currently, the amendment came out in July 2023, and it also introduces three more schedules. And these schedules essentially include also focus on refrigerants that are generated during either manufacturing or end of life and its management. And they also specify what kind of destruction technologies can be used for management of those specific things. They also include two new substances to the list of exemptions. In the list of exemptions, they also mention for the electronic equipment that have been placed before 2014, and that also will be placed after 2025. So there are also exemptions in the rule to make sure that there is no issues emerging from post facto implementation. And yeah, something that is also critical is that they the amendment also addresses how the EPR certificates for various end products will be issued by the recyclers, and the CPCP is going to determine a conversion factor specifically, because there are two kinds of certificates that will be issued, one for recycling, the other for refurbishing. So they are still, they have to work on the conversion factor, and again, the steering committee will approve these. I've provided the link to these rules in the slides as well. This is what the EPR portal is. This is where everybody, all the manufacturers, producers, refurbishers, recyclers have to go and register themselves and provide the information that is sought in the portal. And this is what the larger EPR framework sort of looks like currently. I will not go into detail, but essentially, earlier we also had in the 2016 rules an entity called the PROs. So the PROs were also uh, uh, were also one of the main actors. Now there are no PROs, and the portal itself sort of takes care of the flow, the flow of information on recycling targets and management targets of the electronic waste. So essentially, a producer. So the logic is that the consumers and the bulk consumers uh, give their e-waste to a registered recycler, and the producers, based on their year-by-year targets, get a certificate from the recycler of a certain amount of e-waste recycled. And so that is the transaction. And the recycler also provides that information to the SPCBs, and there is sort of flow of information as well as flow of transact a flow of monetary transact a flow of finance from producer to recycler to get the certificate. So yeah, so this is how the sort of portal works. To come to now the international best practices part, I want to touch upon the work that is going on in EU with regards to mainstreaming circular economy, and also within the larger framework where they're also trying to reach uh, climate neutrality by 2050, bring in their decrease their carbon emissions by 55% from 1990 levels by 2030. So transitioning to a circular economy plan is seen as an important pathway to achieving also all the other objectives. And the circular economy action plan actually tries to keep resources in the EU economy for as long as possible. And it's also focused on design of sustainable products. And it looks at resourcing intensive sectors, including telecom, textiles, construction, electronics, and plastics. And it tries to bring in aspect of design, repair, remanufacturing, recovery from through waste management, and inclusion of secondary raw materials back into the production process. And they also recognize that there will be need for uh, more and more innovation, because all our processes are currently linear. So to move to a circular economy where the economy is not linear, but there's an economic shift, there will be need for innovation and a regulatory framework that sort of fosters that ecosystem and supports this transition. And yeah, so the broad categories for implementation of CEP include looking at sustainable product policy framework, looking at key product value chains. Like I said, the key sectors, they want to have more value and generate less waste, and also derive more value out of per unit of resource use. People are an important part of that plan, and regions and cities are also looked at for inclusion. And there are also cross-cutting actions. There are actions, for example, sustainable public procurement will also look at circular products. So circular products are cut across different sectors, and procurement as an instrument is also a more cross-cutting action. Or let's say a scheme like depository fund scheme or extended producer responsibility, something that we just talked about. And for all of this, they're also trying to monitor progress. This has been in place. There was a circular economy action plan prior to this as well. This is the second circular economy action plan, and this has been in place since 2021. And the EU is preparing a bouquet of schemes and regulations to make sure the EU Green Deal as well as the circular economy action plan gets implemented going into the future. Specifically for telecom, they in EU there's also something called the Circular Electronics Initiative, where a network of 28 companies and organizations in EU have come together to understand how to produce more sustainable IT products and how to also make consumption more sustainable. For example, a better designed product that lasts longer, uses no hazardous substances, is modular, can be upgraded, and that is one kind of model. The other is where you don't own a product, but you derive value out of that product through a service offered by an IT company or by a telecom company. And again, so aside from that, there are also regulations on batteries and waste batteries, also on electronic waste. I will now come to the Eco Design Directive, because this is something that is that I also find very important and very crucial. So far, a lot of Eco Design Directive uh, has focused around energy, and for good reason, because we do have the reality of climate change, and there is need to bring down the carbon emissions. However, only it does not take into account other aspects of sustainability. And now the new eco design directive will take into account other aspects, including the circular economy aspects of whether a product is repairable, so that it is not one time use, if it can be upgraded, how easily it can be managed at the end of life, and how much material can be recovered, so and so on and so forth. And all of this uh, will be complemented by a system, a labeling system, which they are calling digital product passport, so that digitally on each product you also have these information on the constituents of the product, as well as how long, this how circular it is or how sustainable that product is, so that consumers can make an informed choice. uh, Yes, and these are also included. I mean, there is also energy labeling framework regulation, and all of this. Uh, in EU, a lot of these things also are like in India. There's also work done around measuring progress out of these initiatives. I will just ask Saurabh sir to tell me if how much time I have, so I can either jump a few slides or focus on the most important ones.
Ma'am, you can take 10 minutes, ma'am. 10
Okay,
minutes.
thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. So that was EU. We also have a lot of work ongoing in India. Arun sir has already touched upon some of those. Something that is also of interest is the electronics repair service outsourcing initiative. This is between Government of India and the industry, and the idea, the vision of this ERSO initiative is to transform India into a repair hub. I mean, we all know that in India, even if the products are not, sustainably designed, we try and make our products last as long as possible, also including the electronic products. So we also have a thriving repair economy, and India, which country better than India to also become a repair hub? So this is with this. They have tried to also identify areas for setting independent repair hubs, and including in economic special economic zones, or similar to special economic zones, and have measures to support this kind of initiative. I will I will briefly touch upon the special electronic repair zones. This is again something that I mentioned before, the ERSO, and so these I find these two very important because they also set India on the path while we are trying to talk about digital India, and there is more and more reach. So these two initiatives actually take care of a lot of our strengths, as well as provide opportunities for more people to find livelihood and work. And they're also smarter initiatives. Yeah. Something that is also existing in the country is right to repair. So there is a right to repair portal on which for a selected group of products we can find more information about the products and how those products could be potentially repaired. A right to repair movement has been strong worldwide, and India, given it's also again a very thriving repair culture and repair economy, uh, also needed something like this at an institutional, at a government level. And so this portal sort of takes care of that. Uh, Sharing and partnership is one of the ways identified to bring in transition to circular economy. And in India, there is mobile tower sharing initiative, and so different telecom operators come together, and they collaborate and share towers through this. Since 2006, they have been sharing these towers, and this helps reduce overall material consumption of the tower. Also, it also fosters more efficient use of existing infrastructure that we have instead of constructing new towers. And we know that constructing many new towers also sometimes is tricky, given the resistance from the citizens. And so this initiative is also very, very important. And at industry level, Wipro has an EPT eco label, and this is actually an electronic product environmental assessment tool, and integrates energy efficiency, importantly material recyclability, modular design, non-toxic and conflict minerals into electronic equipment. And yeah, and they are trying to use this for various product categories. And the claim is also that by focusing on using less energy and being more responsible, the company has saved around $5 million between 2016 to 2019. Okay, so I am now at almost on the last bit of my presentation, and I have six international in best practices from the industry. Uh, First is Deutsche Telekom from Germany. They have uh, a circularity model that they use, and they aim to have more resource efficiency in operations. They wish to deliver better and sustainable green products and services, and waste prevention and recycling. You will notice that all the examples that are presented definitely focus around waste prevention and recycling. Uh, this is also due to actually the EPR frameworks already also in place in these in European and Australian and other economies. So they also provide a good push for both upstream changes, including looking at design, and downstream uh, responsibilities focused around waste prevention and recycling. I think India is one of the first countries to have an EPR portal, and use recycling certificates for EPR, meeting EPR obligations. The EPR framework in different countries look different, and producer responsibility organizations are sort of the third party organizations to that take care of the overall model. And yeah, so in Deutsche Telekom, they have been focusing around sustainable product packaging, because a lot of uh, plastic waste is generated through unsustainable packaging solutions. And Yeah, and they also have rental models and refurbishing models. They've been working on recovery of copper cables in their telephone lines. And I don't have the figures in the slide, but I think they have managed to recover a lot of copper through this. And they're also trying to adopt more circular approaches for network technology. The second example is of Telefonica. This is a Spain-based company, and yeah, they work on. They have an aim to have more energy-efficient network, uh, including through fiber optics, including in their 5G rollout, and they aim to achieve carbon neutrality in near future. They're using digitalization as an important tool to understand and track energy efficiency measures, reduce their travel needs, automating processes, and optimizing resources. They have a strategy in place, and they want to become a zero waste company by 2030. Like I said, now they have some of these companies also have upstream measures like eco design now as part of their plan, and reuse and recycling. They've collaborated with in bringing Fairphone into the European market. Fairphone is a modular phone, which I think if you Google Fairphone, you will see that you can practically take out different parts of the phone and reassemble, disassemble it. And they something that was also extensively discussed in the Circular Economy Committee at DOT was how to promote the reuse of uh, equipments within the telecom network. And so this company has launched a platform, uh, and it tries to at least internally uh, also promote the reuse of equipment, and they have device recycling programs. um, I think this is definitely linked to their EPR obligations as well, and they've been doing LCAs to analyze the impact of their processes and work. uh, then Vodafone, I think this is a company that we all know. That is also active in India, and they also have an aim to achieve net zero carbon emissions. They have been working on optimizing network infrastructure, investing in renewable energy, using energy saving technologies, and they also have some uh, initiatives that provide connectivity to underserved communities. They have again an e-waste collection program. They're looking at through that program, they're also looking at how they can recover valuable materials. They've launched an internal asset marketplace for resale, repurpose of large decommissioned electrical items within their network, and they claim that they recycle 95% of the waste that has been generated over the last years. They have a device refurbishment and trade-in program, pay-as-you-go trade-in program, where you can get a credit for a new purchase when you bring in an old equipment. Yeah, and they've been also working on eSIM, and I think that is also something that was discussed in the DOTC committee as well. Not Vodafone eSIM, but generally eSIM. Uh, then there is a company in Australia, Telstra, that also has a very well developed eco circular economy strategy. And yeah, so a lot of their work is around recycling and reusing, uh, and collecting back of the used equipments. And their aim is also to include more eco design in future, and also to reduce plastic packaging within their work. Again, the Cellnex company in Spain, they have been doing LCAs of their telecommunication infrastructure services centers, and they are present in many countries, and they are ISO compliant on this. And they have a green procurement protocol. Like I mentioned, sustainable public procurement or green procurement is an important instrument. And so they have this sort of as part of their circular economy strategy. And again, eco design, they want to eco design their centers, include different aspects of eco design, not just the telecom part, because the infrastructure needs other materials as well. And again, waste management and water management and carbon footprinting. Yeah, this is the last international best practice that I'm presenting. And in this, there's this initiative called Mobile Device Eco-Rating, and many of European mobile operators have joined, have come together to understand how they can evaluate their environmental impact for smartphone and feature phones. So they have many of the, I think, two examples that were covered, three examples that were covered in this slide, in these slides: Deutsche Telekom, Telefonica, and Vodafone. And yeah, so they have an Orange, and they also have Orange and Telia company, and they do independent third party association for LCA. And they're trying to launch, I mean, they have launched in May this pan industry eco rating labeling scheme. And they're cut by the end of 2022, there were more than 20 mobile suppliers who supported this initiative and also provided data from their device models that could then be assessed for eco rating methodology. And more data obviously means better methodology, better assessment, and but a better understanding of products. And yeah, and currently through this, uh, more than 300 devices have been rated for their performance on sustainability indicators. Yeah, so thank you very much. Thank you for your attention and listening to me.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. It was a very informative and very wonderfully presented from your side. Uh, Basically, you covered various policy initiatives to mainstream circular economy in EU and various best practices in various telecom companies also. Very relevant. So thanks a lot, ma'am, for your presentation. There is three, four questions are there, but I will take only one because of lack of time. If you find time, you can answer those in the chat box. One question is, SREZ is a good concept, but there are inherent dangers of India becoming dumping yard for electronic waste of developed world. How to control import of e-waste for recycling in the country then?
I think there are. This is a very valid concern, because indeed we know that a lot of e-waste dumping and plastics dumping, a lot of waste dumping happens in developing economies by the developed economies. So there is definitely a real danger there. However, I think while government is developing these, there there are measures put in place to sort of avoid this, because the repaired phones, I think repaired equipments also need to go back to the entity wanting those repaired. And yeah, so essentially this is also an attempt to formalize this flow. If there is more formalization, at least there is an overview of, and we know that this is what is coming into the country uh, for in the name of repair. I mean, a lot of things also end up in India as second hand equipment, or. So definitely this is a very valid concern. But yeah, I think while developing this, the aim is also to sort of have a better regulated mechanism for these services as well.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you very much. So I'll again thanks to you for such a wonderful presentation. And we move to the next technical session, that is creating an enabling environment for promoting circular economy by Dr. Shilpi Karmakar, Project Manager, Plastic Waste Management Project, United Nations Development Program, UNDP. Just brief about Dr. Shilpi. Dr. Shilpi Karmakar is a seasoned professional in the field with more than 15 years of experience in environmental sustainability and circular economy sector. She holds a PhD in carbon capture and has worked with national organizations like CSER, UNDP, etc. She is a distinguished former fellow of the Department of Science and Technology and a British Council fellow at the University of Manchester, UK. Her passion lies in the seamless integration of resource efficiency, and circularity principles within diverse business landscapes. Her extensive knowledge encompasses regulatory compliances, managing multidisciplinary cross-cultural projects, and cultivating harmonious team collaboration. She is also a strong advocate of gender equality in both her professional and personal life. Welcome, Dr. Shilpi Karmakar, and you can start with your session, ma'am. Welcome.
Thank you, Saurabh sir. Firstly, I would like to thank the organizing committee for giving me this opportunity. So my screen is visible?
Yes, ma'am. Screen is visible and you are audible.
Yes. So I would like to also, thank Arun sir for this opportunity and for, creating this entire platform where we could discuss more about telecom and its circularity beyond perspective of just the retail material, but also reaching out to the networking materials. It was a very good experience. I would say when we started this discussion with Arun sir and his team on creating the framework of circular economy for the telecom sector. So I'll not go into very much details because all the esteemed speakers has already spoken about, the policy factor. Dr. Anjali Taneja has given a very, brief presentation about policies, and similarly, Dr. Reva has covered a wide spectrum of practices. So I will be very quick, looking at the time constraint. A quick picture of what we have done in UNDP into the plastic waste management. So we have
Ma'am, excuse me.
we have
Ma'am,
yeah.
excuse me. One request. If you can put it in the presentation mode, that would be
Is
better.
it is
Yes,
it
ma'am.
now? Is it
Fine,
better?
fine.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I was talking about UNDP's, presence and its expertise. We have our esteemed presence in 38 cities when it comes to the plastic waste management program, where we had very closely collaborated with the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, the urban local bodies, the CPCB, SPCB, and other stakeholders, including NGOs, CSOs, and the recycling sector. This entire program till date has resulted into mobilizing around 125,000 metric tons of plastic waste from landfills to the recycling value chain. Um, we had touched based 5,500 Safai Sathis, the waste workers. We have we have taken care of their, integration, mainstreaming. We have formulated them into the self-help group and ensured how these informal sector workers can be mainstreamed into this waste management value change. This program till date has led into, partnership with more than 38 municipalities and more than 50 enterprises and special partners spread across pan India. The pillars that has been, standing there with us to achieve these objectives, where the partnership with governments and the corporates, the infrastructure and the machineries and the equipments that has been brought, well thought and brought into the picture, the social inclusion factors, where we enabled protections of the Safai Sathis by linking them to the various government schemes, and packaging all of them and presenting it in a package as a product for mass outreach and behavior change. The program has not only done a digital or, say, pocket wise or isolated awareness, but has reached out to door level for creating awareness about waste management, about welfare of the waste workers, the informal sectors, and we have been providing technical assistance to the various urban local bodies through need gap assessment, training, hand-holding. Um, this is what we have been doing for past 5 years in a nutshell. So very quickly now I'll come back to the topic, that is circular economy in the telecom sector and its benefit. The right hand side is what circular economy is all about, and this is being already covered, very well covered by Arun sir and other esteemed speaker. Looking at just the key benefits, overarching benefits is the environment sustainability, economic growth. So Dr. Anjali has very well spoken that, you know, this adopting circular economy can give us an edge, give India, the country, an edge over the circular, over the economic growth. The recycling or the refurbishing sector of India can be flourished. And can extend their services beyond the country. Similarly, being a developing country, there is dire need that we continue our economic growth, but keeping in mind the resource efficiency. So, this adopting circular economy principles would also help us help the economy to be more resource efficient while having a continuous pace of growth. And overall, adopting these principles will lead to community well-being, sustainable practices, environmental protections. So looking at, you know, this picture, you can very easily assess that these benefits are not only limited to one or two sector. We have to touch base all these sectors, including the telecom sector, which has been an enabling factor for economic growth, um, ease of life and whatnot. So, what do we mean by enabling environment? Based on our prior experience into the plastic sector, what we learned that when we entered into the sector long back in 2017, 2018, there were certain policies available, but those policies or the regulations were not so much enforcing or doesn't have any compliance in place that can abide the key players, or that can, you know, provide incentives to the key players or the stakeholders to adopt a circular practice or adopt a resource efficient practice. Down the line, in last 5 years, the plastic waste management rule has emerged, has evolved like anything, and now we can see a very strong policy that take care of, at least the policy is there to, you know, guide us on how to adopt circular practices and who does what. The norms are there pays, the enforcement practices are there pays. The EPR portal is one of the, you know, key achievement of CPCB in, you know, enforcing this policy regulations in the plastic sector. Similarly, for any sector to have a enabling environment, the first and the foremost step is the policy and the regulations to be on place. Second comes is the investment in innovations and infrastructures. So when we talk about innovations and infrastructure, there must be products which have durability, which may be, you know, which may be capable of in having a long life. But if there is no innovation to put it back into the circular economy chain, into the circular economy value chain, the product will eventually see end of life rather than seeing reuse or recycle opportunity. And that's where now every businesses and every stakeholders are focusing on how to make the products more you know, sustainable, not only in terms of recycling but also in terms of upcycling, and that's what eco design model is all about. Similarly, just having or just producing the products that are that are upcyclable or that are recyclable, or the spare parts can be changed so that the products can be reserviced, would not be efficient enough. We need infrastructure in terms of the recycling in facilities, in terms of refurbishing facilities, services also for addressing the requirement. So there is a requirement, or this needs to be ensured before we can say that the circular economy can be adopted very well. So this is one of the key pillar of the environment, that there are innovations and infrastructure required to make these stakeholders capable to design, or produce or bring into the products that are circular economy friendly. Similarly, collaborative partnership, public-private partnerships, or knowledge sharing or international cooperations are very much again required to make the environment or make this ecosystem completely workable and sustainable. And last but not the least is the education and the awareness. uh, right now there are multiple studies which says that what percentage of consumers are aware about the term called circular economy, or aware about resource efficiency, or is there any asking among the consumers on having sustainable products. So yes, there are a lot of studies, but then this percentage of consumer is very low. The percentage of awareness, the moment it increases, it will also insist businesses for implementing effective and circular products into the market. So now I'll come to the case studies. Some of the case studies have already been covered by the earlier speakers, like the European Union's Eco Design Directive. One of the important, or one of the example of eco design principle was the right to repair, or adopting universal charger policy, the type C policy, which is prominently known as. So such type of design directives, it comes from national or the global level, will definitely align all the industries or the key players in the market to align themselves to be more resource efficiency. Recently, you must have seen a very motivating, I would say, initiative. The iPhone 15 launch, it has Type C chargers. So now the need for having a separate charger just for an iPhone or an Android phone will end up if the adapters are of similar capacities. So this is a very good example of eco design as well as resource efficiency, which is being implemented. Okay, and this came into practice just because there was the directive, or there was this agenda of India also to, the policy, Type C policy, which where India wants to adopt all the chargers, whether laptop, mobile phone, or any other chargers, to have Type C type of connectors. So it happened just because of the policies and the regulations brought in place by the government, or the key, or the ministries, I would say. Similarly, Sweden's extended producer responsibility. So this EPR caters to the entire life cycle of the product. That means the telecom companies, they will be responsible for not only producing, but collecting and recycling the products, and this leads into designing change in the design part, upcycle, I would say, the upstream changes, where the investments were made by the producers to design products which are recyclable, which tends to reduce leads into reduced electronic waste. Another a very interesting policy was the green procurement program by the South Korean government, which allowed or the encouraged the procurement and devices that adhere to circular economy, so that the market is driven by this need, and this could lead to production of such type of products which can be again reused, refurbished, and recycled. Similarly, the eco mark certifications or the other similar type of certification which certifies product based on their environment performance, based on their energy consumption, based on their circularity principle. So eco mark or certifications or having a passport of the product is also another policy intervention or policy initiative that is creating an environment, an enabling environment for the stakeholders to adopt and follow such type of and bring such type of products that are circular economy certified products. The orange case study, which Dr. Reva has already touched based, so they had an aim to, reach to net zero carbon goal by 2040. So, address to their aim to achieve this aim, one of the important move they which Orange adopted was to operate their networks and the data centers. To operate their networks and data centers, they largely depended on refurbished equipment. So this resulted into a benefit of around 1 billion cost saving to Orange Company. And also this particular case studies has been very well captured into the ITUT recommendations as well. So, cases like this or initiatives like this are good to learn about and adopt and if these things can be incorporated into the policy factor also will also result into a better enabling environment for stakeholders to bring in circularity into the networking sector. This is one of the study which we did, UNDP did on, digital mapping of the plastic processing facilities. This is under, again, innovation, I would say, an infrastructure requirement. So what we did, we mapped the plastic processing facilities. So this is done by GIS mapping, and ESRI was our partner to do this, to carry out this work. So we map the plastic processing facilities, only those facilities which are registered with CPCB and are available on the CPCB portal. So if you can see, there is a very good, very prominent band which starts from Punjab, traveling through Haryana, Delhi, Rajasthan, and ends up in Gujarat and Maharashtra. And most of the recycling facilities are placed in this band. This study very clearly says that if government want to invest or build more recycling facilities or recycling infrastructures, which are the geographical locations which are still untouched and has the potential to have a good business in the recycling factor. So studies or innovations like this can help understand what is the infrastructures available for addressing what type of pollutions, what type of issues, and where the government can focus, how the stakeholders or how the businesses can plan their next stage of investments in terms of if they are planning for setting up a recycling facilities or if they are planning for a refurbishing facilities, so where it should be placed to capture the market. Another case study is on the collaborative partnership was a TNT Global Supply Chain Recovery, where they identified, certain contractors, certain vendors who were certified to recover and recycle the network, recycle the network infrastructure assets. So these vendors were given the whole sole responsibility to dismantle, to use the spare parts which can be reused, sort them, baled which the commodities which cannot be reused and sent for recycling. So end to end from the dismantling to the end of life cycle, the entire value chain was handed over to certified vendors. So identifying such type of vendors, certifying these vendors will also enable stakeholders to create partnership and create an environment or create a business model for more resource efficient or for circular economy approach or circularity approaches in the networking sector. And this entire initiative, uh, which started in 2020, around 2020, has handled more than around 23,000 metric tons of operational waste and kept around these waste away from the landfill and increase the recycling rates. So this is a very interesting model. My presentation has the link where you can go and study about these models. I will be very precise looking at the time. Again, the another partnership, which is BT and Cisco partnership, is a very recent partnership between BT and Cisco, where Cisco is the recycling partner to BT, and Cisco will be processing the networking kits to reduce the e-waste. That means the most of the reusable or repairable part of the networking kits would be put back into the value chain, and those that would not be reused will then eventually see the recycling way for further down the line. And that's how most of the resource will be put back into the value chain again. The Telefonica case studies has already been covered by Dr. Reva, so I'll skip this. Okay, so this particular factor every businesses must have spoken about when the policy document on the telecom and networking product was being developed, that what is the financial initiative incentives and the support that can be bring into to promote circular economy approaches. So financial incentives such as tax benefits or subsidies, or just having a brand exposure that the brand is eco-friendly, or certifying the brands that they are certified to be eco-friendly or sustainable or circular brands. Would some of the incentives, financial and non-financial incentives that businesses would look forward to adopt circular economy practices? One of the case study is the RMDP program that provides funding opportunities to promote use of recycled material in the manufacturing processes. So telecom companies that adopt or that tend to procure recycled materials to develop products or to manufacture products for networking materials are being financially incentivized by the US departments. So Department of Commerce and Recycling. So such type of initiatives, say incentives in terms of getting some credits, environment credits, or maybe grants, or maybe subsidy, or maybe even tax exemption would be very key factors for turning the businesses or turning the consumers also to adopt or to move towards circular products or approach or adopt the circular economy landscape. So in terms of awareness and education, again, one of the study which Cape Gemini did on the consumers, and they found out that the consumers are, very well concerned. They are aware of and they're concerned about the issues of resource depletions or waste management. But most of the consumers are now educated more on the plastic waste or food waste, or to some extent water. However, there is a huge, awareness is still required. Reaching out to the mass, reaching out to the youth, reaching out to the key businesses also, or the small scale businesses also, and making them aware of the circular economy principle and the incentives that bring into the businesses when they adopt these principles is one of the key requirement as of now. I would say largely the consumers are aware, but because of the lack of aware, lack of infrastructure or lack of facilities where they can reach out and take care of either recycle or refurbish their product, or even refuse to accept a non-sustainable product. These level of awareness and these level of trends to be introduced in the markets, I would say awareness will play one role, but introducing a trend that okay, I'm a more sustainable person and I opt for a more sustainable product. If these trends are introduced in the market, if the influencers are coming into the picture and introducing these trends, there would be a huge level of adoption. The way fast fashion has been adopted because of the influencing market. Similarly, circular economy practices can be adopted or if the trends are brought in by the influencers. So this is one of the sector where the department has to focus on. This is one of the sector where UN organizations like UNDP are also quite intensively promoting. We have a very well defined programs how to invest or how to create this behavioral changes in the sector. Similarly, these are some of the other studies which says that consumers are aware, consumers are willing to adopt sustainable practices, but the enabling environment is one thing which is required to set up to enable these consumers also to adopt a circular economy approach, whether it's in plastic or textile or per se telecom sector. So coming down to the challenges the telecom company faces while transitioning to circular economy model. So these are the global challenges I will be talking about. Um uh, One of the basic challenges is the business models. So, what type of business model would be economically viable? What type of whether the vendors would be available for that or not? Whether the if a product is designed in a circular approach, is the value chain for bringing it back? Is there any tracing mechanism to bringing it back into the value chain or traced how many times the product has circulated into the value chain? These type of models or these type of associated challenge, I would say, are still existing globally into telecom sector as well. Logistic complexity again. Moreover, the products logistically, if sent to end of life, is economical rather than sending it back or circulating them to refurbishing or recycling for the producers. For the consumers, of course, getting a higher value of their end of life product or higher value of the product which they want to replace is something which the consumers also looking forward, but the economy and the ecosystem doesn't permit that very conveniently. So these are some of the challenges. There are multiple other challenges in terms of business models. Um, in terms of collaboration, so new partnership in terms of when we were discussing about having capacity building of the players, the formal and the informal players, to adopt circular economy practices. One of the factor which came up, one of the topic which came up in the discussion was that there is a huge informal economy engaged in refurbishing their products, and the brands may not want to refurbish their product and lose their quality. So refurbishing, while the qualities are maintained, the brand would be interested to adopt such type of, ecosystem, while this will also create a trust factor among the consumers to go for such refurbished product. So such type of collaborations where businesses or brands can come forward and create their own ecosystem of refurbishers or recyclers who can retain their quality standards also, or in terms of certification of those refurbished products. So such type of collaborations between the government, between the private sector and the informal sectors is something which is missing, and these collaborations will again help to achieve the enabling environment for such type of such for such a transition to a circular economy. Shared responsibilities, when we talk about shared responsibility, the prioritizing e-waste reduction is the goal of whether the business or whether the government or whether the consumer. If these shared responsibilities are well defined, whether through policies or through business models, and in that cases, again, the transition will become more smoother towards the circular economy approach. So these are some of the key strategies which have been very well covered under the strategy document, which Arun sir has already presented and spoken about. Very briefly, the policy development where government should formulate the policies and incentivize circular economy practices such as EPR, tax incentives, subsidies for sustainable and circular technologies, collaborations again between the government agencies, industry players, informal sectors, integration, and environmental organization is again very, very essential. Uh, why I'm talking more and more about informal sector is also from the learning that we had acquired or gathered through last 4 years of working into the plastic circular economy, is that informal sector is a very wide and very strong spread network or a web of human capital and business models across the countries. These informal sector right now lack the capacities, or lack the technical know-hows, or lack the standardization of doing the work. If these informal sectors are integrated within the systems through collaboration, because there would be a quite a amount of resource mobilization would be required, both on the capital, human and financial capital both. So if these informal sectors who are partially trained on addressing the concerns of the reuse, recycle, refurbish sector, uh, if these informal sectors can be incorporated or can be mainstream, there the possibilities for achieving a network of players or network of when business models who can address the requirement of the larger players. Uh, I can keep on speaking about what informal sectors need or what informal sector can do, but looking at the time, I'll skip this part and I'll move to other key sectors, that is awareness and educations, which I've already spoken about. Research and innovations, yes. So India is quite rich in research and innovations and development of sustainable technologies or processes. The businesses have their own models defined. The research institutes have been very closely working on material reductions and so many other aspects of sustainability. So these things, this particular strategy need to be incorporated to make this environment more enabling for the stakeholders to adopt or transit towards the circularity. And lastly, but not the least, the monitoring and the enforcement, monitoring of the compliances just like the plastic or the e-waste is happening nowadays. Similarly, the monitoring of the compliances through a digital platform or maybe through various other digital tool is required for the regulations, and also enforcing these regulations, um, whether penalties or whether penalties for non-compliances or whether credit for compliances is another important factor to achieve this transition. So with this, I'll end my presentation. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thanks a lot, ma'am, for wonderful presentation. You have nicely covered the requirement of enabling environment with the help of case studies, and also covered various key strategies for creating the enabling environment for promoting circular economy. Thanks a lot, ma'am. It was a very means knowledgeable presentation from your end. So just one question in the chat. I'll just take that. In Australia, there are concepts like return and earn mechanism and similar initiative prevalent widely, which enable the citizen to contribute towards successful recovery and recycle of waste plastics. Are such mechanism or systems in place in India? If so, are there any targets for scaling up to reach to its corners and something like that?
So, in terms of such targets, I would not have a very clear answer at this point of time. But yes, the mechanisms do exist. In terms of if you see the packaging, in the packaging world, there is a very defined targets that the packaging products which are recyclable or which can be reused. Does have certain brands do mention that if you return this product or if you recycle this product, you will get the values. But in terms of telecom sector specifically or networking sector, I would say this standardization is yet to be established. So if there is a standardization established at the national level, that if you buy this product, use it for this much time, and you return it back to this entity, you will get such amount refers. So such type of standardization or valuation, standard valuation is not there as of now. But yes, there are businesses, I would say, who would allow citizens to adopt for such practices. But yes, the standardization is yet to be established formally. Maybe like Arun sir or Reva or anybody else would like to add to this question. But in my information, I don't think so there is any such standard protocol is available.
Okay, ma'am. Thanks a lot for such a wonderful presentation and conversation. So we have come to the closure of the webinar. And sir, you want to say something, sir?
No, that's perfectly fine.
Okay. So firstly, I'm thankful to all the four eminent and distinguished speakers of this webinar, Sri Arun Agrawal, Dr. Anjali Taneja, Dr. Reva Prakash, Dr. Shilpi Karmakar, who have nicely shared their thoughts and experience on this very important topic of circular economy for telecom sector. I thank them from bottom of my heart for taking time out and delivering such wonderful session. My special thanks to Sri Arun Agrawal ji, Deputy DDG JNK, for connecting us with such distinguished speaker for this particular webinar. Thanks a lot, sir. I'm thankful to Sri Ritu Ranjan Mitterji, advisor and head TC, for delivering the inaugural address, being the chairman of the committee for formulation of action plan on circular economy in telecom sector. His presence in the webinar has inspired all the stakeholders and participants of the webinar. I'm also thankful to Sri Dev Chakravarti sir, DG and head Anti-Aprit, for delivering the welcome address. He is a constant source of inspiration and he provides leadership and guidance to all of us at Anti-Aprit. I'm also thankful to Sri Atul Sinha sir, DDG ICT, as he has been guided us on each step while preparing for this webinar. I'm humbled and thankful to Sri Dev Chakravarti sir and Sri Atul Sinha sir. I'm also thankful to my colleague Sri Jaipalji, ADT Anti-Aprit, who is helping me in smooth conduction of this webinar. Finally, last but not the least, I'm thankful to each and every participant of this webinar. Without their earnest desire to learn more about this topic, this webinar would have not been a success. So thanks to everyone. With these words, we can close the webinar. Thanks a lot to all.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thanks to
Thank
you,
you.
Saurabh, for
Thank you.
conducting